Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Ango Show. It looks a little bit different in here today, but it is April 2nd, and it's 2025. Yesterday was NXT, and I thought I would bring the fellas back together once again. So for those who don't know who I am joined with today, we got Phil and Billy, and Silly Billy, and Phil. Well, I don't know. I don't know. Sorry, buddy. I'm not that good of a rapper. I don't know how to rhyme. Phil, Bill, Big Bill, Phil.
Big Bill, Phil. That's
we got
crazy.
Big Bill, Phil, and
like
Little
it.
Bill, Silly Bill. I don't know. But we're here.
Big Bill, Phil.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about pro wrestling, and as always, it's really exciting when we get to do that. So, shout out to these guys for coming through. Phil has been on the channel before. It's been a while since we've got him back on the channel. So hopefully the stream and everything is looking good. It is looking a little bit different, but as you guys know, we're always trying to evolve the show and take it to another level and just really have good conversation and all of that good stuff. So if you guys want to support the stream, we are going to be acknowledging our top super chatters for the month on this channel. And on the show. So, yesterday was the first day of the month. Actually, Phil was the top contributor so far. And then following him, we got True Styles and Tolino Channel. So shout out to all of them for their support. And I think everything is looking good. I'm looking at the stream on my phone. I'm looking at it on the computer. I don't know. I guess we're not having technical issues, which is relatively nice.
No, it looks good. I'm looking at it right now. It looks good
so far.
Cool, man. So did you guys watch NXT last night?
I did.
I did too.
Interesting. Obviously, a very newsworthy, packed episode of NXT. And I want to talk about it. We got our super chat goal active. If you guys want to contribute to the show, help drive the conversation forward, definitely recommended, definitely appreciated for sure. I'm super excited about this for honestly a variety of reasons because I thought NXT last night was very, very, very good. A lot of things that sometimes I would criticize or things that I want to see have been answered yesterday. Obviously, the show ended with the new North American champion being crowned, and I kind of want to start there, fellas. Before we get into the nitty gritty of the crowd shitting on Tony Khan, I think we should kind of just discuss overall the match. Were you shocked? What was your reaction overall to what we saw? We will begin first with our good friend, Silly Billy.
So, my overall reaction was, we knew they were going to do that. We knew that Shawn Spears was a transitional champion. We knew WWE's goal here. They want to skyrocket Ricky Saints. And rightfully so, right? That guy oozes aura. I know we use that word in wrestling a lot, but he really does. He has a lot of aura surrounding him. He's a star, man. And the way the show ended was amazing, and it was done perfectly. And honestly, the right guy. You know what I mean? They're doing the same thing that they did with Ethan Page. I love it.
Yeah, I agree. Phil, what did you think?
Yeah, I thought the match was fantastic between Shawn and Ricky. I think they really do work well together, but ultimately, when it came down to the result of seeing Ricky become the new North American champion, I was shocked, but I also wasn't at the same time. I didn't think they were going to do it right then and there on just an episode of NXT. I thought they could have possibly done it on the grand stage of possibly a stand and deliver or something like that. But I'm glad they did it now because, like Billy said, the man is an absolute star in the making and already is one in NXT. And you can just tell that NXT and the people behind them are really just trying to strap the rocket on this guy and allow him to progress and succeed and however they really want to make it happen. But what happened afterwards with the attack, which I'm pretty sure we will get into, is definitely very interesting to me. And I feel like that is most likely, especially with Stand and Deliver very soon, that's where they're most likely going. So I like it.
Yeah. It's so funny because one of the biggest concerns that I've ever really had with talent leaving AEW to go to WWE was like, will WWE be a piece of shit company? And, historically speaking, right, if you didn't come from WWE, if you didn't go through the WWE system, Vince McMahon and WWE would kind of shit on you. It's been relatively nice to see that guys are just respected for their abilities. And Ricky coming out there having a great match with Shawn Spears was actually not shocking to me because I have a lot of respect for both of them. But it was really nice to see how they laid out the groundwork. Ricky had a very, very good match. Ricky wins the match. Okay, Ricky gets laid out. Ethan Page is holding the belt. Meanwhile, this wasn't at a pay-per-view. This was just on regular TV. And this is like a noticeable change that I've seen in WWE programming lately where, if I'm honest with you guys, man, I love it. These title changes that are happening on TV are making me even more excited because you don't know which way they're going to go. And, it's like, I want to add this part too. Look at Ricky. This was a guy who was beloved in AEW. Beloved. Like, these guys loved Ricky. He comes to WWE and shows the world exactly what Tony Khan should have been doing, which was actively pushing him. And they did at one point actively push him. Things fell apart. But this is the chance for Tony Khan to kind of learn, like, man, maybe some of these relationships that are rocky, maybe some of these relationships that aren't working out, maybe we got to figure it out because they are going to WWE and WWE is wasting no time. And that obviously brings us to the next topic, which is the Tony Fumbled chant. When you have Ethan Page standing over Ricky Starks holding the belt, the crowd was chanting Tony Fumbled. And I know we've had conversations like this in the past, but now that it's actually been some time, do you agree? Do you disagree? Phil, we'll start with you.
I do agree that Tony fumbled. And the thing is, I don't agree with just one person that he did over the other. I agree with both in the sense of Ethan Page and Ricky Starks, mainly because we have seen Ethan Page ever since coming to WWE and NXT absolutely kill it. He has been doing some amazing work, not only just within the own character of the all ego persona, but just the way that he just goes about things and how he is being handled on NXT television. He's honestly one of my favorite guys down there. And that's, when I say down there, it's not, any type of derogatory, without developmental in the main roster feel or anything like that. It's just the way it is. But then you see Ricky Starks, or Ricky Saints rather, and you see him get that rocket strapped to him, become the new North American champion. We all knew that this man in AEW could have been something, correct? But at the end of the day, for one reason or another, things just really didn't work out for either one of them in AEW, and you see them here in NXT thriving. I don't see how really you can try to make an argument otherwise.
Billy?
So I'm going to kind of make you think a little bit deeper about this topic, right? So on the surface, it's really easy to say that, yeah, Tony did fumble, right? He fumbled these two individuals. The way that we're looking at them, you can even make the argument that in some regards he fumbled Penta. We don't know Ray Phoenix yet and what that looks like. Maybe potentially could have fumbled them. But I think with using that, you have to really look at the in-depth of this that, I think most of us here are adults, and we can have an adult conversation about this and say that in some regards, I think Ricky actually said it on his Chris Van Vliet interview. Some things just don't always work out the way you want them to. So it's easy to point blame at Tony. It really is. It's easy to point blame at AEW. It's easy to point blame at Tony and say, this is your fault. This is what you did. But there's also another side to that, and that other side being that these are humans, and just because it didn't work out there doesn't mean it won't work out, somewhere else. And let's take Swerve Strickland, for example. We can make the argument that WWE fumbled Swerve Strickland, right? Mm-hmm. We can all agree there, right? So when you use those two logics, why aren't we saying that loud and proud about Swerve and that? You know what I mean? Because Swerve went on to AEW and became their top guy. He's over there getting chanted loud, proud, all of this and that. I just think,
not to cut you off, but that wasn't. No, you're good. Yeah, that wasn't how it was for Swerve initially, though.
No, you're absolutely right. But again, he worked his way to it. And that's what I'm saying, where it's just because that situation over there didn't work doesn't mean it's not going to work somewhere else. So just because I get it, right now it's so easy to give that heat to Tony Khan in AEW. It really is. It's the popular thing to do in the internet wrestling community. I hate to break it to people, but it's just a simple thing of like, dude, these are human beings, and no, it just didn't work out, man. And it just so happens that Ricky Saints is a great talent. Ethan Page is a great talent. So of course they're gonna yell, they fumbled them, right? When in reality, it just didn't work out over there. That's just my thoughts.
So I want to respond to that though, because one thing that you're not mentioning though is the fact that WWE doesn't have a track record of fumbling guys that have come
But they do because
AEW.
they did Swerve.
No, guys that have come from AEW.
Oh, okay. All right.
So the thing is, every person that's come from AEW to WWE has had some significant role, right?
Well, I'm just gonna say it like this. Yeah, that's very easy to say because it's almost like you have something to prove, right? If you tell me that I can't do something, then I'm going to work 10 times harder to make sure that thing is better. So therefore, that track record that you talk about, it doesn't exist. Why? Because they're going to put a lot of focus on that because they understand that the pressure is on them, the spotlight is on them in that circumstance. Because we can make the argument, yes, AEW, they have a limited fan base, whatever, right? I understand that. Regardless of the fact, in the internet wrestling community, in WWE's eyes, their way of keeping you hooked as a quote-unquote hardcore fan is to make sure that overall you are seeing this guy get the spotlight that you think he deserves. So that's their way of praising that quote-unquote hardcore fan without them saying it. That's just my take.
Okay, but hold on. Let's get to really what matters here.
Okay.
How many people have left WWE to go to AEW after losing their job from WWE? Not because they left on their own accord, but because they were released. Several. There were several people.
Yeah, numerous.
Okay, so let's use a good example of somebody, because we can keep going on and on and on and on with names. But there are many more people who have left WWE to go AEW.
Right, correct.
Miro was a 3-time United States champion released by WWE and went to AEW. Now, he had a pretty cool TNT championship reign. Very short-lived, but he had one. Okay, so now we are going to compare people who have lost their jobs in WWE and have gone to AEW and people who have lost their jobs with AEW and gone to WWE. Every single person who has left AEW to go to WWE has been somewhat successful in their own right. Now, how you judge success could be based on a lot of things, but to me, I'm going to simplify it for everybody listening. Success to me is just being utilized. I'm not talking about championship reigns. I'm not talking about anything like that. I'm talking about consistent use. Exactly. So, Lexus King came to WWE, got a vignette, got repackaged, goes on to actually be utilized on TV in storylines, and on top of that, held the Heritage Cup, right? Ethan Page, somebody who is not an AEW homegrown talent because he came from TNA, right? He left Impact, took a chance in AEW, did nothing. But he goes to NXT, immediately becomes world champion, constantly on TV, right? And then you have Ricky Saints, you have Jade Cargill. Is there anybody else that I'm missing?
Penta now.
Penta, okay. Consistently used on TV.
It will be Ray when he gets in Friday. But,
exactly.
I mean,
so
it's just a matter of them.
So now this is where the conversation kind of changes a little bit if you shift gears. Look at the people that have left WWE and gone to AEW. Swerve Strickland was not an immediate success in AEW. In fact, there was a lot of issues with Swerve initially coming into AEW. Same thing with Keith Lee. Now, Keith Lee, we've learned, has some health issues and stuff like that. So let's just take Keith Lee off of the table because of that, right? But Swerve came in, wasn't immediately anything of a big deal. In fact, they tried different things with Swerve and they've canceled them all. They tried doing the Swerve in Our Glory thing. They had to cancel that too. We all saw they were trying to tell a story and then 8 months later get back to it. It didn't work out. It took a lot of time for Swerve to get to the point where he became a world championship kind of guy. Also in AEW, we can argue again Miro because he came into the company, had the stupid video game gimmick with the best friends bullshit, and then eventually became the Redeemer and then eventually did nothing. Aleister Black was always tied to the House of Black. They did utilize him at times, but they never gave him singles matches. and they never did anything with him as a focal point of the show, just occasionally here and there. I think you can make the argument that WWE has done a way better job of taking people from AEW.
Sure. I'm not arguing that.
Okay.
I'm not arguing that. What I'm arguing is using
the term
the
Tony
word
Fumbled.
fumble.
Yes.
Using that term.
Okay. So if the barometer to measure this success is TV utilization, isn't that enough proof that WWE has already beaten AEW in that sense? Again,
where does that mean that Tony fumbled? Because he did utilize those people on TV, correct? If that's your bar, if that's where your bar is utilizing them on TV, right? That's your level of success. He did that. Did he or did he not put them on TV?
You have to give me a name. You have to give me a name.
Miro. Malachi Black.
No.
They were on TV. They were on TV because you leveled that. You
brother.
Before.
Okay, again. Hold on, Billy. Hold on. Miro, AEW, cagematch.net. Let's just take a look at something. I want to see something, right? Let's see.
Yeah.
Miro's 39 years old. He is from Bulgaria. We all know that. I'm just kidding. But let's take a look. Let's take a look. Matches that Miro had in AEW. He joined the company. I'll tell you when he had his first match because we'll see it right here. In 2020. Okay. From 2020 to 2025, because technically that's how long he's been there, he's appeared on TV 37 times.
Okay.
In the span of 5 years.
Billy. So he was on TV though, right? He was on TV because your argument is that
Billy,
the level is on TV. In the span of 5
years, you think it's fucking acceptable to be on TV 37 times?
No, that's not what I'm saying. You're missing my point. You're setting your bar at TV. That's what you just said.
Being on TV, consistently being on TV. Billy, what are you saying?
Okay, there you go.
Consistently being on TV.
You didn't use consistently before. You didn't use consistently.
Oh, he appeared on TV one time. He appeared on TV once in 5 years.
That's where you set the bar.
Billy, he appeared. Billy, he appeared on TV once in 5 years. Once in 5 years is you're telling me that's success? Come on, bro. Use your brain. Consistently being used on TV. I'm not even saying
I'm using my brain. That's where you set the bar.
Okay, but the bar is being utilized. Being utilized. Miro appeared in 5 years not even 37 times. 36 times. Since 2023, we did not see Miro. On December 30th, 2023, AEW World's End was the last time we saw Miro on TV.
I saw that. I saw that live. And after that, I was like, when we never saw him again, I'm like, all right, what are we doing here? What was this? I mean, obviously that turned out to be, I believe it was Andrade's last match in AEW before stuff happened with him. But after that, I'm like, all right, what are you doing here? Why? Why are you not utilizing him? And that's just the point of the matter. The one thing I also do think that we kind of have to take into account here when it comes down to the WWE side of things, of how AEW people coming over to WWE, they have something right then and there to work on. Right? You had the American Nightmare gimmick for Cody. They just turned that shit up to 100. You have Jade Cargill coming on in red hot right then and there. They have something to work on. They just turned it up to 100. They have these things turned up to 100 each and every single time with these AEW stars because they have something to work with. They had that experience in AEW. They just had to polish it in WWE to make it work. WWE people over to AEW, you're going into a whole new system. A whole new system that you weren't even really kind of born into. Okay, so you just have to try to figure out how you're going to be handling things right then and there. And at the end of the day, whether it's going to work one way or going to work another, it's a whole other different beast. And I feel like if you're going to be consistently utilized on television, rather than not, yeah, sure, the parameter should be consistently being used on television. But that's not the only factor I feel like that really should be technically into account when it comes down to WWE people coming over to AEW.
So what would be the alternative then, if it's not being on TV?
Are you asking me?
I mean, you know,
I'm asking Phil.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, you gotta have them on TV, but you gotta give them you got to give most people something to work with here. Give them feuds, give them substance when it comes down to do that. Because if you're not going to have them being like subsequential type feuds, then how could you really allow them to be on TV to build to whatever you want to go to? Some people, yes, sure, you can argue they put them right out the gate with that, but it's just a matter of really trying. Yes, you got to get them on TV. That's no fans about, but I don't know. You got to figure something out.
Okay, so let me give you guys a good example of somebody who's come into AEW who has been consistently used. Whether I like the way they're being used or not, it doesn't really matter. But Ricochet has come into AEW and been utilized
very well,
heavily on programming. Right? He is one of Tony Khan's toys.
Yes,
we all agree on that, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And used, yes.
So
100%.
So would you guys agree with me when I say that Ricochet was not fumbled by WWE?
What are you? That Ricochet was not fumbled by WWE?
Correct.
I mean, no, maybe not in the sense that necessarily fumbled. He was utilized, didn't necessarily reach the peak that, again, the argument, the IWC did not want him to reach.
Okay. I'm not worried about the IWC. I'm worried about us three.
I am, because that's the argument that I've created here.
Sure, but for the sake of our conversation, Ricochet went on to WWE, held championship gold, right? We saw him in NXT on the main roster.
And okay. To us three, I think we can agree. No,
that he was not fumbled. Okay.
He was not fumbled.
Okay. So, but the reason for that was because of why Ricochet was heavily used across both programs, both companies, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Can we make that argument, though, for every single person that has left WWE or TNA? We'll say even TNA. Somebody who's left TNA or WWE and gone to AEW. Can we sit here and say that Ricochet is a perfect example of what it's like to switch companies and be used? He hasn't won gold in AEW, but he's constantly used and he's constantly storylines.
Yes.
Okay.
Sure.
So why is it that guys like Ethan Page, why is it like guys like Ricky, why is it guys like Malachi couldn't get the same level of respect that Ricochet got? When you can make an argument that all of those guys are as equally talented. Do you guys understand that the argument that I'm making here is when people say Tony fumbled Ricky, it's not because Ricky wasn't being utilized in AEW. At one point he was. But the reason why Tony Khan failed to actually capitalize on Ricky is because Ricky was never given the same love as some of these other guys who have come into AEW. Another good example of somebody who left WWE and went to AEW and became Tony Khan's toys, Christian Cage, Adam Copeland. But we're talking about old veterans, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not talking subjectively. I'm not talking about, this storyline's good. But Copeland, FTR...
They're used.
They're used heavily across the programming.
I completely understand what you're saying.
So now it makes a lot more sense when I say that Ricky was fumbled by AEW, because you see that the barometer, this measuring stick for all these other guys who have transitioned, have gone into that company.
Has been somewhat higher.
Yes, than a homegrown star that came from NWA that many people didn't know about. So when I hear the NXT audience chanting that Tony Khan fumbled Ethan and Ricky, I do have to agree with them. There's no other way to put it. It's 100% true. And it's not an opinion. If you're talking about people being utilized, now you're coming across as who's your favorite and who's your not. And that's not fair, because that's an opinion. But we have seen, like factually speaking, that Tony Khan has his favorites. He pulls people from WWE and he puts them on their show. Mercedes Moné is a great example. But we could sit here and argue the semantics of, is this good or is this bad? But the reality is Tony Khan does have success of taking people from other companies and utilizing them correctly. But there are people that he didn't utilize correctly. There's no way that you give Ricky the Owen Cup and then don't really do anything with him. Ricky was somebody who was very, very, very talented in AEW, and the IWC has completely shifted their opinion on him because of the fact that he's no longer wearing the elite around his brand. He's all WWE now.
You know what I'll make an argument for, and I will sit here and I will say that Ricky was fumbled in the year of 2024.
But
Does that sound fair?
Brother,
does that sound fair?
No, because here's the thing. The reason why I don't think that sounds fair is because at the end of the day, he was put on this pedestal for success. And another argument that I can make.
Well, if you do that for everybody, you're screwed. If you're going to put somebody, because you can make that argument for somebody like a Darby Allin, for like a Sammy Guevara, all of those guys have been put on this pedestal, and it's again created by somebody who necessarily did not put them on a pedestal. We put them on a pedestal, not him.
Okay, so now you're exposing another problem that AEW has, which is when people have momentum, they don't know how to capitalize on it. Thank you very much, Billy.
How though? How does that expose that?
How do you go from Harley Cameron being the biggest act in AEW to now being Harley Graham after losing to Mercedes? I mean, it was literally to the point where fans were clamoring, going crazy, saying Harley should beat Mercedes, let her do the pull off the upset because you just created a new star. It just kind of sounds funky to me that every single time somebody gets over on their own in this company, they are never given the opportunity to actually be executed a massive push. You are punished in AEW for going over naturally on your own. Harley Cameron's just one example, but trust me, there are several more. And it goes back to the other argument. Guys like Copeland, guys like Christian, they've been able to go into that company and they get their sweet TV time, FTR and all these people, right? But then there's other people who have naturally gotten over and created great content for this company, and when it was time to actually push them, Tony Khan didn't.
Mm-hmm.
You should know this. Sammy Guevara is a perfect example. Where is Sammy Guevara? Does it have something? Does it have something to do with the fact that Mercedes Moné's in the company? I don't know, but I think that's a legitimate question to ask, right? The coincidence of the timing and everything.
Yeah, if you want to get down to the nitty gritty, sure.
Yeah, so it's just kind of weird that every person that actually gets over on their own in this company seems to be getting punished.
That I will agree with.
You're going to agree with that. But before that, what were you saying, Billy?
About this?
About the thing, putting people on a pedestal. The IWC put people on a pedestal.
Yes.
Well, no, yes, they were put on a pedestal because they got over.
Yeah, that's sure.
So again,
because people want to see them succeed.
So now you're exposing the fact
to do that.
So Billy is basically exposing the fact that if you get over on your own in AEW, this is the result of it.
Oh, I did it. Yeah. God forbid I could sit up and admit when I'm wrong.
I'm just saying. If we're going to sit here and say, oh, it's not a fumble or whatever. No, it is. It's a fumble. This is a great conversation, but the reality is if WWE right now, for example, like I could sing the praises of Ricochet all day, right? Ricochet goes out there, he's killing it. I don't even care for his stuff, but he's killing it, right?
Sorry, Billy, but we're using the AEW logic on this. The success rate for AEW talent going back to WWE is far greater than the other way around. Tell me when I'm telling lies.
I don't know.
Sorry, guys, because the super chats, I didn't know this, but the super chats do have the type to speak activation. I didn't know I turned that on. We do have some super chats to get to, and we will get to those, guys. I promise you. I promise you will. But Ricochet, like I said, was a good example of somebody who came in immediately and got some love, right?
Yeah.
But there are examples of people who have come in, didn't necessarily got that love, they got over, and because they got over, it led to AEW not capitalizing on it. So, for example, Ricky Saints is a good example of somebody who got over in AEW. He became a class act in AEW. People loved watching him in AEW. And then it just so turns out that once he leaves the company, it becomes this thing of, oh, he wasn't that good. But that is a response mechanism to the fact that people are saying AEW fumbled him because they don't want to admit AEW fumbled him.
And real quick, just want to make the preference. I see people in the chat for everybody who may think like, oh, do I think that Ricky's not great? You're out of your mind. I think Ricky is amazing. And I do think WWE has executed him much better than AEW has. Never argued that.
We're going to get back to this conversation. Let's get through some of these super chats.
Sure.
Sorry, guys, for making you wait. I really do apologize. It was just getting a little heated. Not heated. This is just fun stuff. This is what the show is all about, having a great conversation. Salino Channel dropped 100 rupees. He says, I believe women's North American title will stand out at Stand and Deliver. Imagine Zarya performing Spear F5 on top of the ladder. Sol Ruka, Stunner, Kalani, Moonsault. Yes, as you guys know, the women are having a 6-woman ladder match at Stand and Deliver. Super excited about that, by the way. As you guys know, Stephanie Vaquer vacated the North American Championship. I thought that was kind of an interesting choice. I don't know if I necessarily agree with vacating it, but They did make that decision.
I argued that too. I didn't think it was the best idea to vacate the championship. Me personally, I just didn't agree with it. I understand. I've seen a lot of people, like, I made a video on it. People talked about, like, oh, well, Keith Lee did it. Like, yeah, I get it, but why do it in the first place?
Yeah, I agree.
I feel like if we literally just saw Stephanie defend both her women's championships the previous week. If you have somebody in Stephanie Vaquer who is willing to do what she did last week to defend both her championships against, the women's division of this company, allow her to do it. Allow her to see where it goes, see what happens. I mean, if she's able to do it, she can do it.
Yeah.
But it's just a matter of how, it all came about, how it all was executed and everything like that. And the fans were not happy about it.
Yeah.
Fans were not happy about it at all. But with what Stephanie said in her promo afterwards, saying that, like, I want to see this women's division succeed because I know this women's division is the best in the world. She got them back on track with that, and they were allowed to, be excited for, a new champion be crowned again.
By what I said,
we'll see in due time how it all
you.
shapes out. But yeah, I really wasn't too big of a fan of it either, because I was like, then why did we have a double champion be crowned in the first place?
Exactly. There is some rumors too that Julia is hurt, so I don't know if those are actually accurate or not. But that would make sense as to why they just gave her both belts. You never know, obviously. It seems like at some point they were probably in a pickle, but I definitely agree. I don't like the idea of vacating it. At that point, you just have Stephanie just defend it both, and if you have, if you really want to play it smart, like, we'll obviously see what happens with the women's ladder match, but if you want to play it smart, you can have Stephanie Vaquer go through a injury angle in the match that immediately takes her out, and you don't know if she's going to be able to compete in the main event for the women's championship, and then you could have done some really cool babyface stuff there. I don't know.
They definitely wanted to do the match. They wanted to do the match between Julia and Stephanie right away. That's why we saw it at the beginning of everything. I mean, they probably wanted to do it a lot later than they had to, but they wanted to do it.
Yeah, I agree with that for sure. Tolino Channel did drop a second super chat too. He says, the moment Ricky won, Ethan came to mind. Both have 10 plus years of experience like the black and gold NXT. Both should push limits. Both tell a story on the mic and ring. I'm excited. I'm not going to lie to you guys. I'm excited about Ethan and Ricky. I think those two guys are really, really going to do extremely well in a feud together. And one point that I really, really want to make about Ricky and Ethan, and this was one of my biggest gripes about them, even in AEW too, is that they are both incredibly good storytellers and good in-ring professional wrestlers. I don't feel like people who watched NWA and watched TNA when, like, Ethan was in TNA, for example, like, people knew this from Ethan Page, right? When he came to AEW, people wanted to see Ethan Page more, and he wasn't given that opportunity. And then at one point he was put in ROH. When he eventually
I will not argue that. I will never argue that.
There was a big need. Like, there was a demand from people like, hey, we want this guy. Like, he is good.
I will never argue that, and I will never argue that.
I was a huge Ethan guy in TNA, and then all of a sudden when he showed up in AEW, I'm like, if you don't utilize this guy properly...
Well, they utilized him well in the beginning, if you think back to him and Scorpio Sky.
I'm not going to argue that. I mean, I loved what they did with that, but the thing is, I'm like... This guy, solo-wise, he could be something for your company if you just allow him to be that. And they never really explored that for me.
Yeah.
Right. Agreed.
And that's really what I want to kind of, like, mention is, like, people have... They've known what these guys have to provide, and they weren't really given that opportunity to do it in a meaningful way. And so... for me, the real test, I feel like NXT is so good at this, and I think maybe this is where I kind of get concerned with the main roster for sure. Like, these guys are going to kill it in NXT. These guys are going to have a massive feud in NXT. How can we get these guys on the main roster to also have, like, equatable success? I would love to see them translate well to the main roster, and we'll see how WWE does. I'm not sold on the transition for everybody from NXT to the main roster, but these are two guys who are really, really good. They are fighting for the secondary belt in NXT, which automatically makes the North American Championship feel important too.
I will forever say that I love what they are doing And I love what WWE has done with the AEW talent. I'm never going to argue that. Just want to make that clear. I'm just arguing the word fumbled. That's all.
Yeah. I understand.
I think fumbled is used a lot. A lot of terminologies and a lot of vernaculars are used a lot when they really kind of shouldn't be. But I understand what you're saying.
Yes,
I understand that too, Phil. But at the same time, too, like I think the problem is people like the one thing like fumbled is different than buried, right? And so
that's fair.
I think, like, for example, I think a perfect example of disingenuous talk would be like Penta taking the pinfall on Raw. The IWC comes out and they're like, Penta's been buried. I think it's common sense that he's not been buried. He's had to take a pinfall loss, and by the way, you're setting up a storyline for WrestleMania.
Right.
He got speared by his tag team partner.
Like that forever. Yeah,
exactly. So I think all three of us have enough common sense to sit here and be like, yeah, like this is 100% like he's not buried. But to sit there and say AEW fumbled Ricky Saints, I think you can make an argument that they did. Because if you look at Ricochet, and again, I go to Ricochet, I go to Toni Storm, by the way, because even when Toni Storm came in right away, she was utilized very well. It wasn't like, oh, before Timeless Toni Storm, she was bad. She was doing great stuff immediately. Ricochet, Toni Storm, they immediately come in and they're being utilized heavily, right, across programming. Yeah. And then they even and Ricochet will even be better if they do eventually put a belt around his waist, and eventually, the biggest argument is that Ricochet will never be a world champion. Like if they can figure out a way to make Ricochet world champion, that's even better, right? But even just in general, how they've utilized them, it just goes to show you they have not fumbled Toni Storm, they have not fumbled Ricochet. But I think you can make the argument of, hey, we gave this guy who got over the Owen Cup, and then he ruffled some feathers with the Adam Copeland storyline, and that was the end of it. And so I know the IWC will love to point to the direction, which I hate this aspect of things, but it's, oh, well, he didn't want to be in AEW. It was always his goal to be in WWE. He's Cody's friend. He goes to WWE events and stuff like that. I don't like that argument for the simple fact that Bayley goes to AEW shows and many other people in WWE go to AEW shows and support their friends. You know what I'm saying? So if Ricky was being penalized by AEW for that, if that was a Tony Khan decision, then shame on Tony Khan.
For sure.
Because that to me is what makes me believe that you've even fumbled him more. You're going to push that narrative.
But again, that's all speculation.
Yeah, you can't penalize him for that.
For sure, it is speculation, but you have to understand, like, and of course, I get where you're coming from. It is speculation, Billy, but at the same time too, you just got to remember that in this particular case, this was a guy who was utilized between Team Taz, and even doing the tag team with Big Bill. Like, something went wrong, and they decided to not utilize him. Okay, whatever went
where
wrong.
It went wrong, we don't know. We don't know
where it went wrong. But again, this is my criticism. Something went wrong. Look at the people that have left your company and gone to the other company. They're not getting buried. They're being utilized right away. Wouldn't you want to prevent that?
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry. Actually, I don't know if Tony Khan realized this, and this is like a point that I've wanted to make for a long time, by the way, with the Penta and Rey Fenix thing. When all those talks came out about Penta and Rey Fenix going to WWE as a tag team, Tony Khan froze Rey Fenix's contract. Now, I can tell you, based on the tag team...
Very crappy.
Very crappy. Tag team division is it's not as great as it could be, right? SmackDown's getting better, Raw's getting a little bit better, but it's not a prominent focus for WWE, right? So now I make the argument, Tony Khan fucked up even more by freezing Rey Fenix, because guess what? That gave WWE enough time to see if Penta could be a singles guy, and it sure enough proved, holy shit, we got to make him a singles guy. And now look at Rey Fenix. He's going to be a singles guy. That's a double whammy for Tony Khan. Because if Tony Khan just let them go to WWE as a tag team, well, Tony Khan should have been smart enough to identify that the tag team division in WWE isn't a focus. But if you look at Penta and now what's going to happen with Rey Fenix, it has completely changed the landscape in the sense that WWE could potentially have two singles guys going for titles. There's no way, there's no way that Tony Khan doesn't watch his competition. He does. He's admitted this. For sure. So, why would you want your people to leave your company and then go to the other company and thrive? You know they're going to do that. Instead, you can manipulate the situation.
It's silly.
Yeah.
It is silly.
There was two super chats, by the way, from Matt's Tube of You. He dropped a $10 super chat first. He says, "Sorry, Billy, but you're using AEW logic on this. The success rate for AEW talent going back to WWE is far greater than the other way around. Tell me when I'm telling lies." He also followed up with that with a $5 super chat and says, "By the way, Billy, I stand by what I said, but no disrespect to you. You're still aces, man."
So
I'll let you respond because he dropped your name.
Oh, I'm going to. I'm going to. Yeah, I'm going to. So when it comes down to using the quote unquote AEW logic, that's all respect to you, brother. That's just a very weird way to put it. I'm just using my logic. That's all. I'm not using AEW logic. But what I'm saying and what I'm trying to pinpoint here is that as true as that may be, that WWE talent going to AEW may have been a billion times better or a billion times worse, and WWE talent or AEW talent going to WWE could be a billion times better. That's not what I'm arguing. And I think, again, that's where people are missing the point, because I understand that it's a case-by-case scenario. Everything is of a different caliber. You know, we talked about Ricochet. We talked about Tony Storm. We've talked about Ricky Starks. We've talked about Ethan Page, right? We've talked about all these different names, and every single one is a case-by-case scenario. So all I'm arguing is the word fumbled. The word fumbled has to be utilized. I think Phil said it. It's a certain vernacular word in the way that it's utilized and overutilized, and most oftentimes towards Tony Khan. I think that's all fair to say. Correct? Right. Is just not the right way to go about it, because at the end of the day, it's just a case-by-case scenario. And that is what I use as my logic. It's not Tony's logic. It's not AEW logic. I'm not sitting here praising AEW and saying that they've done great. No, I'm actually sitting here agreeing with them, saying like, oh yeah, no, they have messed up in a lot of cases, even willing to admit when I'm wrong in some cases, going back to the Sammy Guevara situation and how talent is utilized in certain way when they get over. I can agree with all of that. But at the end of the day, it's all about this one word. You have to focus on that one word, because that is what could potentially ruin something. Look at the way we just talked about Penta potentially being, people go online and they talk about being buried. Being buried for what? A pinfall? No, he wasn't. No, it just made sense. Again, just using that word, because Swerve's over there doing great now. Hate to break it to people. Ricochet is over there doing great. Whether you like the story or not, he's doing great. Tony Storm is over there doing great. And I appreciate you, though. No disrespect to you. All love to you. Thank you for your super chat.
So do you agree with that super chat?
AEW hold that thought. WWE makes 100x out of them. WWE raises ticket price. People still buy it cause there is storyline for everyone.
Okay, sorry, there was a super chat. We'll get to that one too. But do you agree with the super chat then, when he says that WWE has like a better track record of...
For sure. I will agree with that. WWE does have a better track record than what AEW has specifically done up to this point. Do I think that AEW is starting to gain their own track record and do better? Absolutely, because we're looking at like a guy like Ricochet who came in. You know what I mean? And we can make the argument that, Speedball, and I know he's not a WWE talent, but I know Ango, you brought up TNA earlier.
Yeah.
Speedball Mike Bailey being utilized on TV, now being put in this triple threat match. Again, we were worried. Remember how worried we were that it was going to be...
Same night, give them that Guerrero and Benoit moment they had hugging for win the main titles.
Okay, sorry, continue.
Do you remember how mad we were about the potential that whoever Kenny Omega went into this match with was ultimately just going to get buried? Again, we weren't thinking about the fact like, oh, if they make it a triple threat match, then it just sets up a feud between, guess who? Speedball and Ricochet, right? And Kenny can walk out of this match still the champ. It makes sense, right? So, yes, while I agree that WWE does have a better track record, I think AEW is fixing theirs.
I do agree that AEW is fixing it. I won't disagree. I won't disagree with that. I do think AEW is fixing it. I think historically speaking, they've been bad about it, and it has been
historically, yes.
Historically speaking, it's been bad.
What's your take on LFG after 7 eps?
Let's continue with the super chats. Shout out to Matt's Tube of You, and
thank you for your super chat, brother.
Love the respect. You can say anything you want in this world. You could be a dickhead, but as long as you say it respectfully. No, just kidding.
Yeah, bro. As long as you
like you gotta say that part.
Yeah.
Bro, no disrespect to you. You're still the aces.
Billy,
appreciate you, brother.
Billy, you're a piece of shit. Respectfully. Just kidding. I love
respectfully, Billy.
Bro, I see the chat. They're mad. I see the chat. They're like, "Oh, Billy's a mad king." You know what? Maybe I am.
No, this is great conversation, bro. This is fun. This is fun. Shout out to Matt's Tube of You. Tolino Channel dropping 100 rupees. He says, like Phil said, AEW missed. WWE makes 100x out of them. WWE raises rocket prices. People still buy it because there is a storyline for everyone. Tolino Channel, I love you, but I'm actually going to disagree. WWE, yes, they are telling stories for everybody, and there's a lot of stories everywhere, but WWE has just done a very, very, very good job of marketing, PR, and building their brand so well that I don't think their brand is built on one specific superstar. So this is one thing that is, it's the UFC method. I think it's, for us wrestling fans, sometimes it's actually not the best because it's, if you apply the same thinking with UFC. But if you build the brand so well and so positively, and then you are telling stories for everybody, and there's always something happening on TV for everybody involved, right? Then it now doesn't become, oh, well, it's just this one person putting butts in seats. It's the whole brand. It's everybody as a group thing. I think with AEW, I do want to point this out, I think with AEW, they have to get good at either selling the people that they have on the roster or selling their brand. AEW, being a smaller company, and less experienced, obviously. WWE has 50 trillion years to learn from. But and part of that too was Vince McMahon. I'm not gonna lie, like Vince McMahon did a really good job of building up the WWE. So when TKO took over, they implemented their strategies that they learned with the UFC. But AEW being like in business a lot less than them, it's the one thing that AEW needs to change. Because I do think there was this belief, and you guys could chime in here. Please tell me if you agree or disagree. But I think a lot of wrestling fans looked at AEW and saw, oh my God, Mercedes is coming in. She's going to be a game changer. Adam Copeland's coming in. He's going to be a game changer. Oh, so-and-so's coming in. They're going to be a game changer. It hasn't changed the game for them. And I think that's because of AEW's marketing. I think AEW, I think if there's one thing, forget about like the TV product. If there's one issue AEW genuinely has, it is their marketing. For sure.
Yeah, for sure.
So I do think like WWE has just built such a strong brand that even like the hardcore fans at this point are like becoming disconnected with it a little bit, but it doesn't matter because WWE's brand is so strong and no longer pertains to them at all. Whereas I think AEW's marketing has kind of led people to believe like, hey, this is a niche product and it doesn't really matter who comes in here. We're not really going outside of the four walls to go and capture more growth.
But again, we have to look at the variables of they are trying to change things, and I think that is something to be spoken for. You know, I'm not saying you have to go praise them or be like, oh, hey, look at them over there, but you have to give credit where credit is due, right? And this is just one of those times where they are, you know, one of our biggest gripes as hardcore fans was creativity. Yeah. Their creativity was very much lacking. So the last 4 weeks, maybe month and a half, they've done a pretty good job at, you know, pushing forward stories. You know what I mean?
Oh, I mean, as I've said, just so you guys are aware too. I don't know, Phil, if you've been paying attention. I feel like this last month, creatively for AEW, has been the best since 2021.
For sure.
That's fair. Yeah.
Like, sorry, Billy. I just want to point this out. Not just Dynamite, but also Collision. Like both of them simultaneously.
Collision has been so much better.
Yeah.
Than it has in years past, honestly. So yeah, I agree. Yeah.
So what I want to break down is, I think we talked about it yesterday, Ango. We talked about, you know, what does AEW do and need to do to get back on track? Well, we just covered one of those bases, right? Mm-hmm. One of those bases being creativity, right? Mm-hmm. Next, we have to go again back to those lapsed fans, correct?
Yeah.
Because now AEW has lapsed fans. And how do you do that? Well, we start having conversations like this. Conversations like these are created to where people now feel more incentivized to maybe tune in to AEW Dynamite tonight, right?
Yeah.
Okay. That's another option. Okay. Step 3, after you gain those lapsed fans, That's when you start focusing on your marketing, because I think I've seen some people talking about it, AEW potentially being a quote unquote sports entertainment product, whether they are, whether they're not, whatever you want to call them. Yes, in some realm, they are sports entertainment. It's just the truth. I don't think they've scoured away from it. I could be wrong on that, but at the end of the day, that in my eyes is what they are. So they're coined as that. So now you focus on the marketing, right? And let's be real here. The stories that they are telling are a alternative from what WWE is telling. So they need to coin themselves away from WWE. Their stories are different. Their television is different. Again, kind of going back to what they were in the first place. An alternative, right? Mm-hmm. I don't need you to be better. I don't need you to be better than WWE. I don't need you to be worse than WWE. I just need you to be AEW. That's it. And they're starting to find a grip of that identity, and they're fixing that quote unquote identity crisis.
Yeah, I will tell you, it's hard to market a company when you don't know your identity and you don't know your vision. And so I do think
for sure that's why you fix those things first.
But you did mention the creative, and I don't think that's true. I think if you believe it or not, I think if your marketing is actually so good, then it doesn't really matter about your creative.
Yeah, I mean, okay, again, that goes back to like being strategically correct. Like I think as people who do YouTube and stuff like that, like we understand that, right? But in a logical aspect, those would be the normal 3 steps that you take. Because again, our biggest argument to AEW was that they were focusing on one set of fans, which is true, right? We're not going to argue that. They were focusing on one set of fans. So now they're fixing the creativity for those fans, right? Because you still have to make your audience proud. Yeah. You have to make your audience happy. Okay, so you're doing that. The next step would be creating a place for those lapsed fans who maybe tuned out of AEW, maybe went to watch TNA, maybe went to watch WWE and using TNA as an alternative, or just watch WWE, whatever, using them and trying to gain them back, right? Yeah. And as soon as you can gain those people back, that's when you start to dig into the nitty-gritty of the marketing, because your marketing, you have to have an audience to market, correct?
No, because good marketing could bring you an audience.
Fair. Like I said, logically, the real answer is as much as that is true. Again, we do YouTube, so we know that, right? Doesn't mean that the outside world knows that.
No, I think the outside world knows that. I think the outside world is very, very, very blinded by marketing, because I think everything. My belief that I've said for a while is we are marketers in general. So, for example, Phil is the one person on the show who doesn't have a microphone visible to the screen. Billy and I do, right? That's free marketing for this company. If a viewer is listening to what me and Billy are saying, we are more inclined to generate searches or sales for the microphone, right? And then I think for Phil, he's not being a good marketer, right? Because his microphone's not on the show. My point that I'm making, though, is that marketing is everywhere. Advertising is everywhere. We are actually walking billboards. Billy is wearing a Pistons hat. Somebody might see that and say, hey, Billy, what is that hat? I like the Pistons too. I want that.
It happened today.
So my point that I'm making, though, is marketing is actually the first and foremost. It should be the biggest priority of any business or any brand or anything that really exists, because you actually get free marketing all the time. So this is one of the things that I even see in the chat very, very often when we talk about AEW, but it's like the World Championship isn't being shown on television right now because of Jon Moxley holding it.
Yes.
But if you're trying to sell your brand and your merchandising, you should have your belt everywhere. And like, I know people don't like the WWE Championship because of the big the WWE logo and stuff, but like that is what made marketing. That's marketing.
That's the big branding.
And by the way, that's good branding and good marketing, and it has nothing to do with your creative. It has nothing to do with the audience. It's, it was funny. I was shopping at Best Buy with my girlfriend and her brother the other day. We were looking at getting Starlink, and we go to Best Buy for a specific reason. And as we're walking around the mobile section, where like they sell the cell phones and like the accessories and stuff, they have all their TVs on display. And it was so funny. There was actually a WWE Toy Championship belt on the back of the screens. my guess is that maybe they have like a sales contest, between their salespeople and like, oh, winner gets the WWE championship, right? But I remember it was so funny because my girlfriend's brother was like, oh, they got the WWE belt there. He doesn't watch wrestling, but he made that comment. He knows what the WWE brand is. So if he was ever interested in watching wrestling, sure, yeah, he could hit me up and ask because I cover wrestling for a living. But he's already identified, hey, I don't watch wrestling, but that's the WWE logo. It's like Starbucks, right? You get a cup, it's the Starbucks logo. Like that is basically what marketing is. Like there's this identity. I think AEW has significantly done a terrible job with making their brand available out there. And it's the reason why WWE and Fanatics is so headstrong about these partnerships, and people win championship college games or whatever, and they get a belt and it's a WWE belt, right? It's like,
for sure,
WWE could do all those things, but if WWE's program is bad, that doesn't matter because they've already mastered the art of marketing and advertising. And that's where AEW really struggles. Honestly, you can make that argument that that's probably the worst thing about AEW as a company. Because and it takes time. I'm not stupid. I understand.
Yeah,
it took WWE a lot of time, but there is a lot of people on the back end of AEW who come from WWE, and they should be able to know these things. And by the way,
I think that's what I'm trying to make clear is that it does take time. It's not something that happens overnight.
And
you can expect it to.
No, for sure. And they got to do it in their own way as well. But like,
right, correct.
Not having your AEW World Championship belt on TV. I went to Target the other day.
Yeah, that's horrible.
I went to Target the other day and I saw AEW action figures. It was very cool to see that. Like I don't buy action figures, but it's cool to see that AEW products are in stores. Right? They have an AEW video game, but these things should be front and center, and like they should have like this like methodology. I don't know what I'm trying to say. They should have this ideology though. I think ideology is the word. They should have this ideology where the brand should come first, and then now you have all these great wrestlers, build the brand around that. It's not even about being storytelling or wrestlers, wrestling or in-ring stuff or cinema, blah, blah. No, it's just, hey, our brand is AEW, and let's build a distinctive brand, and then when you do watch this brand, you are going to get that hardcore grittiness. You are going to get those high-flying moments and stuff like that. Where I think WWE is, in a way, they're kind of building like a lifestyle brand, which is so strange, but it somehow works,
Yeah, it does. It does.
Really quick, there was a couple more super chats and more shout outs I want to get to. DJ Noel, hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. He dropped $4.99. He says Penta and Fenix win the IC and US title the same night. Give them that Guerrero and Benoit moment that had them hugging for when they win their main titles at WrestleMania.
Phoenix ain't winning that thing at Mania.
I don't know, because I feel like we talked about this the other day. Jacob Fatu, man.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, it's so hard to argue. Like, no, Jacob Fatu needs that championship.
I think he does, but I don't think that's where they're going with him right now.
Do you not think so?
No, I think they're still doing the solo match.
I honestly, Phil, hold on. I actually kind of feel like you're right about this, because they're teasing the stuff with him and Solo. What if Jacob Fatu were to go for the US title and then Solo screws him, and that sets up their singles match at Mania?
That actually makes a lot of sense.
The thing is, I believe isn't Jacob facing Strowman?
Yes.
Either this Friday or some Friday after that, and like
this Friday.
I think it's this Friday. Yeah.
It's like a last man standing match or something like that, right?
Yeah.
I have some sort of sneaky feeling that Solo is either going to cost him either that match or some shot at the United States Championship, like a number one contenders type of deal. And then that's where we have, the Jacob turn, because everybody loves Jacob. I mean, everybody does. I mean, that's not even really up for debate. Like, we see the flip. We see the I hate you Solo type deal that everybody wants.
Yeah, because they still have to tell that story. They still have to tell that story.
So I think somewhere down the line, Solo's costing him something, and then we get Solo and Jacob at Mania.
I'm with it. I'm with it.
No, I like that.
Which is why I think Ray could honestly get to the United States Championship picture quicker than we ultimately could have imagined, because we see how quick Penta's rise has been.
Yeah.
And now he's going after the Intercontinental title, so why not Phoenix?
So let me ask you guys this, because it seems like right now, as it stands, just on TV, it's a fatal 4-way: Finn, Dom, Phoenix, Penta, and Braun, right? So fatal 4-way. Would you do a singles match at WrestleMania for the United States Championship, or would you do a multi-man match at WrestleMania?
I do a multi. You just do them on both nights.
I think you're going to do multi for sure.
So then who's in that match?
I believe you can put
for US title,
possibly a Jimmy in there.
Okay.
I think you could put a Jimmy in there. Maybe a Carmelo Hayes, maybe an Andrade. You can do, I mean, obviously LA Knight's in there because he's the champion. I'd probably stick it with at least maybe 4 or 5 at the most. I wouldn't go anywhere near anymore. Maybe 6 if you really want to go there. But yeah. Okay.
And then Rey Fenix could technically win at Mania.
Yes, then technically, yeah.
Because he wouldn't have to pin LA. I think what they did with LA Knight, they just put it back to square one because they really had nothing else to do with Shinsuke.
Agreed.
I do agree with that. So. They had to press the reset button. I think WWE knew right then and there it was very problematic. Not problematic.
And I was there.
It just wasn't working.
Survivor Series. I was actually happy. I wanted to see where I really wanted to see where they went with that because they had the new gimmick for Shinsuke. They really had something going with the presentation.
Yeah.
And I feel like they kind of just did that for Noah when he went over to Pro Wrestling Noah.
Yeah.
And that for, again, a marketing type deal is like to say, hey, look, a WWE champion is over here. And then we just had nothing to do with him since.
Fair.
Yeah. It's crazy, man.
Very.
It's crazy. I don't know. I think the U.S. title picture is the most conflicting one that I feel about because, like, okay, I know Apollo Crews isn't back, but he was in the mix, right? You got Carmelo Hayes, who I think should be in the title picture at some point. But, like, you have Carmelo, you have Braun Strowman, you have, obviously, Aleister Black is coming in and Rey Fenix. Like, there's a lot of guys. And then Andrade. Like, it's so conflicting because there's a lot of guys who I'm like, and this is a good problem to have. Thank God. SmackDown needed to have this problem, to be honest. Because
where everybody just makes sense.
Yeah, because when Shinsuke was holding the belt, I was like, damn, bro, like, I don't really know. Other than Carmelo Hayes. And I hate to say this too, but even The Miz, bro, I know people want to give shit to The Miz, but like, if they do need a really good heel at some point to hold the U.S. title, I would not be opposed.
He can be that.
To The Miz doing that, yeah. And then I'm always gonna say this. I'm probably gonna keep blasting this out forever. Before he retires, I would love R-Truth to just have one serious run.
Just one
serious run. And the thing about R-Truth having one serious run with the U.S. title would be really cool because then he could put somebody over and that kind of thing.
Agreed.
Right.
So yeah. Shout out to our friend DJ for the $4.99. Tolino Channel dropping 40 rupees. He says, "What's your take on LFG after 7 episodes?" Phil, you first.
Did you say Phil or Bill?
Bill.
Oh, okay. I mean, I love the show. I think LFG is absolutely fantastic. I think they really have something here, and if you just continue to expand it, you can not only just allow these superstars to just get more traction and allow them to be seen by the audience and allow them to really just kind of grow within the WWE system, but we're going to see these guys and girls before you know it.
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of how they really kind of develop them and just allow them to flourish in this WWE system. I love the show. I just do. I think it's great.
Billy?
So this is going to sound so bad, but I'm just going to answer honestly. I haven't kept up with LFG. I've watched some of it. I think I maybe watched the first and second episode, but other than that, I haven't really kept up with it. But from what I remember and the clips I've seen online and stuff like that, I love the idea of it. You know what I mean? Putting these people in front of legends and stuff like that. Like, why not? You know what I mean? Really get them to stand out a little bit. I know there's that one girl. She did the Great Khali move. What's her name?
Bailey Humphries.
Bailey Humphries.
Oh, my goodness. She's a monster.
Yeah.
The women's division's going to need that.
Yeah,
So,
I will say one thing. I encourage you to watch it. You don't have to watch it live. You can watch reruns or DVR.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Yeah, I might go check it out.
I encourage you to watch it because a lot of these people that are on there, like Evander Holyfield's son, to me is like no brainer. Like this guy is going to be fucking huge in WWE.
Elijah's going to be incredible. Yeah,
Elijah's going to be huge. But then also, for example, with LFG, one thing that I like. We got Color James in there, and I just wanted to point this out because we didn't talk about it yet. But in NXT, this was one of my favorite ways to introduce characters.
Oh my god!
Especially for a heel group.
This was great.
So good because Color James, we saw him on the Roku show for WWE, and Sexy BJ Ray. They're both on WWE LFG, but Color James is a Duke wrestler who is now part of Dark State. And by the way, shout out to WWE. Whoever produced this. I don't know if this was a Jeremy Borash thing. I don't know who did it.
Do it again.
Please, just understand. This is the kind of shit. Dude, Phil, Billy, guys, they have Tony D'Angelo and the family scouting Dark State like a typical mafia. And it was so crazy.
Bronson side with H. Jacob.
The thing is, I've always loved the family. I think Tony D'Angelo, I think Luca, Stacks, all of them. I really do. All of them, mainly because all of them bring something to the table. Don't get me wrong, but it's just it's a different type of thing that you would normally see in the world of WWE, but it fits so well with the narrative and it fits so well with the actual grittiness that NXT does bring to the table.
Yes,
that. It's just an amazing thing to see. And Tony D'Angelo, I mean, he's always been one of my favorites in NXT since he showed up. But this is just putting it to a whole other different level. And I love the way they did this.
Yeah, especially with Color James. I mean, these are guys. What I really loved was Tony D'Angelo. Like when they said Color James, wrestler from Duke, right? It was like Tony D'Angelo is like really putting some credibility to these guys. And I loved it. Osiris Griffin or whatever his name is. Like some of these guys, we've seen them, in the PC, but we haven't seen them on WWE NXT television. And actually, by the way, just some really, really good detail that I fucking loved. And I swear to God, I wish every wrestling show like actually pays attention to this. The way that they introduced Dion Lennox, bookworm, nerdy guy. He's been backstage before, but he's like. Right. That's not really who he is. Like he kind of did that, because WWE clearly changed up his gimmick, but it was like they utilized that time to be like, yeah, he's actually like a fucking psycho. Like, I don't know, bro. It was just so good. I loved how they did that. That to me was one of those things where I give them massive props because they acknowledged that Dion Lennox was somebody who's been on NXT before, but at the same time too, it was like the version that we're seeing of him. It's the reason why he's like this was because he was manipulative with that gimmick in the sense. I don't know. I just love that. Shout out to Tolino Channel for the super chat. LFG is awesome.
I just want to say this one thing real quick.
Yeah.
Sorry. You knew exactly who everybody was in that group just by a few bullet points.
Yes.
And that's just like, and that right there is just like absolutely fantastic because now we already know who these characters are. And I mean, we are kind of getting the motive, every single time they do show up on NXT programming. It's just a matter of, just capitalizing on it and just allowing them to thrive. So I think they did fantastic with it. I loved it.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. Just a great way to introduce talent, especially if you don't watch LFG. Like, watch LFG, and some of these people might be showing up on WWE television too, and like. I like the fact that WWE is not necessarily hiding where people are coming from or like denying it or like, shout out to Tolino Channel. Shout out to Kevin Charles. He joined the Job Squad today. He became a member on the channel. So shout out to Kevin Charles. Thank you, brother, for your support and locking in the monthly subscription. DJ Noel DJ came back with another super chat for $1.99. He says AEW's issue is using more WWE talent than their own. Now, this is a part of the conversation we didn't get to earlier.
Yeah.
Anybody disagree?
I wish they utilized more of their talent, like from the homegrown side.
No, I won't disagree. I won't disagree with that.
I think what saddens me the most, honestly, the thing that saddens me the most, truthfully, it's the if I could be honest, like the Sammy Guevaras of the world, the Scorpio Skies of the world, just some of these guys have like kind of just been pushed aside. Like there was a time period where, fuck it, I'm gonna just say it too, bro. Like the Hurt Syndicate I love them. I love the Hurt Syndicate. I really do. I think these guys are awesome, right?
Yeah.
But like Private Party got pushed aside for them. Some of these other tag teams are like non-existent, but like FTR remains a focal point, and like Copeland still remains a focal point. And like, I don't know. I think it's not the biggest deal, but I just think it is a little bit sad because of the fact that they like there was a point in time where I was like on board with
guys
Scorpio.
Guys like Sammy Guevara, work so hard to get into the industry, and then they do everything that they can to get on TV, and then something, kind of, I'm not going to put too much focal point on it, but somebody like Sasha Banks or Mercedes Moné, whatever, walks into the company and you get pushed off to the side. Now, again, we don't know factually if that is correct, but I think, like Ango said earlier, you have to beg that question. That's not something I'll ever argue. Yes, they do focus on WWE talent more than they do their own.
Yeah, I think that needs to change to a certain extent, man. There's just certain people, like I said, Scorpio Sky at one point was like, hey, this guy should be a world champion, and like, I don't know why that's an AEW thing. I don't know why people, and it sucks because of the fact that like it's weird, right? Like MJF and Darby get utilized. Obviously, Darby's off TV right now for Mount Everest, but like they were heavily utilized on TV pretty much the entire time they've been in AEW. And then it's like, oh, well, here's another WWE guy that comes in, and then people get pushed to the side a little bit. I don't know. That to me just kind of rubs me the wrong way sometimes. And I say sometimes because, like, if you look at the past month of their creative direction, they've done a really, really good job with, like, Megan Bayne,
Mm-hmm.
And then we saw Thunder Tits as a tag team, and, like, that was really fun. But, like, Thunder Rosa, for example, I always go back to that incredible match that she had with Britt Baker, and then it's like
St. Patrick's Day Slam.
Yeah, it's like I go back to those days and I'm like, man, that's when AEW was so fucking like perfect, like so good, And so sometimes I just kind of miss where these people that you may not know, like obviously Thunder Rosa came from NWA, but for all intents and purposes, when you're looking at the big two, her identity's with AEW, and it's like, okay, she comes back and then gets off TV and then comes back. Like, I just wish sometimes these people in AEW that came from it, like that were basically like AEW grown, they evolved through AEW. I wish they would just get a little bit more TV time.
For sure.
I don't mind AEW utilizing the WWE talent because I do mind it over, the homegrown talent. But the thing is, AEW's utilizing these guys and girls right now because I get it. They have to build equity in them.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that you can't build the equity in your homegrown talent and allow that homegrown talent to be, presented on your television show in a great and positive way. That way they can build their own identity, build their own sense of equity, and then you can just have them flourish along with all the rest of the other talent back there in that locker room. It's utilizing WWE talent's not the issue. It's just allowing them to be just the sole focus and seeing these AEW guys just stand to the side and be like, yeah, but we're here too.
Yeah.
So
do you guys agree with the
balancing
sentiment?
issue, you can say, but it's odd.
Do you guys agree with the sentiment that Tony has his toys? Tony's toy box.
It's very, very funny to me because at first, whenever I saw that analogy and, kind of like utilization of that term be used at first, I'm like, guys, come on, what are we doing? But then as things kind of progress a little bit more, I don't disagree with it as much as I did.
Yeah. I think it's obvious when you watch the show he does.
If Tony Khan has it, Tony Khan has his guys just like Triple H has his.
For sure.
Thank you.
For sure. I'm not saying it doesn't.
I'm just saying that because I mean Triple H
terminology.
We got to start.
I'm about to start the terminology.
Triple H had
Tony's
his guys
toys?
in NXT.
Does Triple H have so we have Triple H's toy box?
No, we have Triple H guys. It's like a known.
Okay,
it's
so
like it's literally known. Like Damian Priest is a Triple H guy. Baron Corbin has literally spoken publicly not about being a Triple H guy. Swerve Strickland came out and said, "I was never a Triple H guy." What are you talking about? Yes, Tony's toy box is the equivalent of a Triple H guy. They have them.
We just gotta stop the terminology, bro. It's so lame.
You could say it's lame, but is it not truthful?
Yeah, I'm here to tell you it's truthful, but the terminology.
So you don't like the terminology, that's one thing, but who gives a fuck if you like the terminology? The point is it's a thing that actually happens.
Yeah, but then you're saying
you're out there.
Like you're saying it sounds like I'm not saying that this is 100% accurate, but it sounds like you're saying that from a bad place.
No, it doesn't.
It does.
It doesn't though. You know how I could tell you it doesn't?
How?
Because if you listen to the words I said before that, I said, when you guys watch the TV show, does it seem like Tony has his own toy box of guys that he's been using on TV?
Are you saying, is there something wrong with that?
Yeah, because here's the thing. How many times
have I talked about...
Wait, no. Hold on. But how many times have I talked about WWE guys being Triple H guys? All the time. I talk about it all the time. There's guys clearly in WWE who get pushed because they're a Triple H guy.
Is it wrong? Is it wrong that he has those guys?
Triple H?
Yeah.
I think it's wrong 1,000,000%. I think it's wrong for Triple H and Tony Khan.
Okay. Fair.
But this conversation wasn't about WWE. We're talking about AEW.
Kenny, Tony's toy box has obscure Japanese women wrestlers. X. Riho.
Sorry, we were just there was a super chat coming in.
Yeah.
But before we get to those two super chats, Tony's toy box. It is very clear that Tony has his favorites, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Now let me ask you a question. Would you consider Jey Uso a Triple H guy?
No?
So he's being pushed, right? He's being pushed. Why? Because he got over, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Find me the equivalent for AEW.
For somebody who's not
I'll give you the perfect equivalency. Yeah. Somebody who's not a Tony Khan toy box member who listen, I'm just telling you what it is. Harley Cameron got over. She's still on TV, but she's not doing anything of actual relevance. Like, they're not actually pushing her. She's not pushing her. They're not pushing her to the top. They're putting her on TV.
Take on Mariah.
Harley Cameron got over.
Contracts?
Listen to the crowd. She got extremely over. Now she's a comedy gimmick. You could have done something special with her, even if it was a short reign. But she's not part of the Tony toy box.
Okay.
So that's the argument. Triple H guys. There's people.
So every person that's on TV right now in AEW is a part of Tony's toy box.
Tell me who isn't.
I'm just asking. I'm not saying.
I know you're asking me, but I'm saying I think it's very obvious if you watch AEW, you can very well tell who is handpicked favorites by Tony Khan.
Okay.
And until he gets sick of you, you're gonna be shown on television. But once he does get sick of you, you're gone almost.
I guess we'll find out as TV goes on.
But how about we don't find out as TV goes on? How about we reflect on the past month? Which, by the way, as I've said, I'm praising the past month of AEW television.
Yeah.
Right? But isn't it very clear? Isn't it very clear who Tony Khan is clearly a fan of in his company?
For sure. Okay. Not arguing that.
I'm going to be honest with you. Like, I think the most puzzling thing to me was Baron Corbin getting released. Right?
Yeah.
Baron Corbin getting released, not getting extended, whatever you want to call it. I don't know. Very, very strange situation. I thought it was very, very crazy.
Considering he had a lot of momentum.
I'm a huge fan of Baron Corbin. It just didn't make sense to me, right? He clearly wasn't a Triple H guy. But it's weird because under NXT, he was a Triple H guy. So what changed? There was somebody in WWE, he says, that was not a fan of him and basically is responsible for him to go out. I don't know who that person is. A lot of people are speculating, but again, there's no confirmation on this. A lot of people are speculating it's Bruce Pritchard. Okay, let's just say that's the case.
That's what I heard.
Let's just say that's the case, right? Well, if he's not a Triple H guy, but he was a Triple H guy, It's kind of weird, right? Because Baron Corbin was somebody who was actually utilized on TV. They just never pushed him to the limit. But if you look at Tony Khan versus Triple H has his own guys, but Triple H is also pushing people on TV that aren't necessarily guys that he came in with. Like Aleister Black is a Triple H guy. Andrade are Triple H guys. If Triple H doesn't do anything with them, they are no longer part of his toy box because WWE thinks a little bit differently.
For sure.
Okay, so if you look at AEW, though, if you look at the Will Ospreys of the world and the Okadas and stuff, Okada's doing absolutely nothing with that Continental Championship, but he's a Tony Khan guy. He's a Tony Khan toy box member. I'm not saying it. You're looking at it as like a negative thing, but I'm not saying it in a condescending way. What I'm saying is, it is very clear. See, the thing is, I think Billy, you are actually showcasing to me exactly what is wrong with the IWC in the sense that like you want to be like emotionally reactive to what I'm saying, but not actually listening. Like you're not actually.
Oh no,
listening.
I heard you. I think okay, all right, hold on.
Because here's the thing. Here's the thing, though.
Hold on.
Why is it in your eyes a condescending statement to say, Tony's toy box?
You were saying it was condescending. There is a difference. I'm not saying that you are being condescending. How you were saying it and how it was being portrayed was condescending. Yes, Ango, if you use terminology in a certain way, it can come off as condescending.
I don't agree.
Hate to be the bearer of bad news.
I hate to agree with that. I have to disagree with that. I hate to be the one to tell you this, Billy, but words are words and words have meaning. So for example, like this is the problem with everybody in the world today. Ready? I'm going to give it to you just straight up how it is.
Are you going to tell me that my feelings are hurt? Because that's false.
Guys, isn't Billy reacting emotionally? What is wrong, Billy? Show the world. Show your passion, brother. Listen, all I'm saying is everybody is so reactive to, Tony's toy box. It sounds condescending. Why? What am I pointing out other than the fact that Tony has a toy box of guys that he signed to his company that he utilizes? It's no different than WWE.
I don't. Here's the thing, and here's the terminology again. I don't utilize the term toy box though. I just say I just use guys. I'm like Tony Khan has his guys, and just like Triple H has his. I don't use the toy box thing. That's probably where I just kind of say, all right, the IWC is being the IWC, but I know Tony Khan has his guys. That's what I stand for at that point.
And my whole
the toy
argument...
box thing. You can say however you want to say it. I just know he has his guys.
And all I was saying, Ango, is that sometimes when you come off and you say something, your mannerism and the way that you use the words can be condescending. That's not me acting emotional or out of pocket towards the situation.
I hate to debunk this, but you can't even see me right now because I'm not on video with you. So my mannerisms...
No, even the way that you say it. Yes, you can use mannerisms with your words.
Tony's toy box is just so cool. So
yeah, you're sassy. You're sassy. Yeah.
I love the Ango Show live. Ladies and gentlemen, I love this show. It's amazing. It's amazing. It's amazing. Billy, we're going to get back to that.
Yeah, we'll come back to it.
Changer.
Yeah, we're going to come back to that. Hey, Jackson with the $1.99. He says, does Bronson side with Jacob or Solo? Billy, you were with me the other day. We were talking about this. Brother, Jacob, Fatu, Bronson Reed, and Jeff Cobb. Please tell me.
Why not? Why not?
That faction would be insane. I can't.
I love factions. Phil, did you hear when I was talking about like they should have like an 8-man faction?
I did, yes, I did. And I'm like, you know what? I'm not mad at that.
Oh, so good, bro. So good. I want that. And hey, Jackson.
You have like 10,000 members of the NOI family already. Why not do it?
Dude, it's just like, why not do like a super faction? I don't know. You know what I really love? And it takes me back to a time where like, this was the reason why I loved AEW at first too. The random factions that they had. Like, even with, like, at the time, it's so funny, because I remember being like, it's kind of random and it doesn't make sense, but I loved it. It was, like, Matt Hardy and Andrade and, like, Private Party and, like, all those guys, like, the Matt Hardy family and shit. Like, I don't know. And then the inner circle was just like random as fuck too, but it was so sick. I don't know. Like there was something about AEW, the way they did factions, and then WWE did the Judgment Day at first with like Edge and Rhea Ripley and Damian Priest or whatever. But like the Judgment Day evolved into a bigger group, and then the Bloodline obviously was a big group. I love big factions, bro. I don't give a shit what anybody says. I think they're fun.
And I just have to say this: when Bronson Reed was being paired up with the Bloodline to do that whole War Game situation at that time, I loved it. I love that Bronson Reed was being put into that kind of spot, being put into that kind of scenario with the Bloodline, because that right there just showed me that A, they're behind this guy 100%, and B, if Bronson Reed continues to thrive and continues to excel in this type of role that he's in right now with the Bloodline, with 2.0 and with Jacob Solo and all them, who knows what his future could be moving forward. Mm-hmm. So I loved it when they did that. It's just a matter of then he got hurt, and now we're just waiting for him to get back. But yeah, I loved it when they did that.
Yeah,
I honestly can't wait for him to get back too.
I can't wait till Bronson Reed comes back, bro. I really can't wait. That was so fun when he was with the Bloodline. I was like, ooh, he should be a permanent.
It was. Member. That was a lot of fun.
So cool.
Because he fit so well with them.
Yeah.
At that point in time, so I'm like,
I just want a super faction, bro. Just throw a whole bunch of random ass people that ain't got shit to do and put them in a faction. Straight up. Like straight up. Like literally I would put the most random members in a group and be like, hey, you guys are all disgruntled. And the funny thing is they don't even need to like have a brand. They can have a name and a Tron, but they don't have to wear the same clothes and bullshit either. Just put a whole bunch of random ass people together that aren't being utilized, and like they could be a heel group, babyface group. I don't give a shit. It doesn't got to be some gimmick thing like Retribution.
Let them go out there and tear it up.
Yeah, just let them go out there and like, hey, they all got their own clique and that's it. Hey, we all come together because we're all losing matches and like we need to put our strengths together and start winning. And then, you know, oh, by the way, it's a trickle down effect because you can have this faction help somebody win the US title or the IC title or the tag team titles and like whatever it may be. Yeah.
And you can do that group however you want. You can put some young guys in there. You can put some like just make it all about a bunch of established guys and veterans that just say, "Hey, we're just not gonna take this shit no more." Like at the end of the day, you can build it however you want. Just
you
can have it.
100%. Yeah. Shout out to A Jackson for the super chat. Brian McCaddy dropping $5. He says Kenny and Tony's Toy Box has obscure Japanese women's wrestlers. Example, Riho. Brian McCaddy, I don't know why you be doing this on all the super chats, bro.
I was gonna say I've seen this before.
Yeah, I love you, Brian. And I think Riho is phenomenal.
Yeah, Brian.
I wish Riho would actually get pushed again. Yeah, I mean,
I can't really expand that much further.
Yeah, shout out to Brian McCaddy for the $5 super chat. You always make it so hard to answer your super chats, bro. Toledo Channel
give us the hard hitting questions.
Yeah, Toledo Channel dropping 40 rupees. He says, "What's your take on Mariah May, Tetsuya Naito contracts?" Yeah, Naito is a free agent, I guess. And Mariah May is on her contract year. So I will say this. I think Mariah resigns. I think she should resign. I think she would be foolish not to. If she was smart, I think her agent should play the testing field with WWE just in case. Because if you're going to become a free agent, you should always see where you can get the most money or whatever.
Yeah, she's a part of Tony's Toy Box, isn't she?
Mariah?
I want Rock Soul Faction, both men and women's, Dave.
Yeah, okay.
You don't agree with that?
His position very highly.
Oh, no, I agree.
Oh, okay. I don't know. That sounded kind of condescending, Billy.
You see that? Words are condescending.
It was a joke.
See, you were trying to get a reaction out of Ango there, Billy. I see what you're trying to do there, man.
I'm just being silly like Billy.
Silly Billy.
Silly Billy.
Somebody's got to do it.
It's just so funny. Toledo Channel followed up with that, by the way, with another 40 rupees, and he says, "I want Rock Soul Faction, both men and women's division." I just want a big ass faction. Simple as that. Just a big ass random ass faction.
Just turn the whole Monday Night Raw roster into a faction.
No, but what I would do, listen, I'm telling you, okay, give me like 5 names that aren't being utilized on WWE TV. And I'm talking like they haven't been on TV in a long time. Give me like
can it count as injured?
Huh?
Can it count as injured?
Sure.
Obviously, yeah. Bronson. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Give me Apollo Crews.
Okay.
Give me Bronson Reed.
Okay.
Phil,
add in more if you have any.
Yeah, Phil, add 2 more for me. And Ango, you pick the 5th guy.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I'm trying to think.
Yeah, see, it's tough.
Why is it tough? Is it because most people on WWE television actually get utilized?
The freaking evil laugh is hilarious. I don't want to
throw Shinsuke in there.
Even though he was just the champion. Okay, fine. Go ahead and throw him in there. I don't care.
Yeah, throw him in there.
Just throw me random wrestlers. Just throw me random wrestlers. Bronson Reed, Apollo Crews, Shinsuke Nakamura. Give me someone else.
Theory.
Who?
Theory.
Okay. I can't even hear you. That was weird.
Yeah, I think he said
Austin
Theory.
Austin Theory. Okay.
Austin Theory.
Okay, that works.
Somebody said Bob Holly.
Okay, no.
Bob Holly, he's not in the company. Thanks.
Somebody said Sheamus. Okay, I like this. Sheamus, Bronson Reed, Apollo Crews, Shinsuke Nakamura, and Austin Theory. This is random as fuck. Put them in a group, and they have no reason to relate to each other. There's no ethnicity. Yeah, geez, tongue twisters and just speaking a lot and dry throat. Ethnicity. They don't have any ties to their culture or ethnicities, but they're all wrestlers, and someone may be hurt and be out, whatever. Now you throw them in a random group. They don't have to dress the same. They don't have to do any of that bullshit. But basically, what you end up doing.
I love to see Cross take over Wyatt 6 with Uncle Howdy Strowman and Rowan and Aleister Black be a faction go into a feud.
Sorry, we were getting another super chat. But basically, you throw all these guys together, and let's just say you throw them on Raw, right? Now, basically, what you have them do is they're just aligned with each other. It's like an alliance between all these random wrestlers. And then what you do is you put 2 of them in a tag team, makeshift tag team, and they could go after the tag titles. One of them could go after the US title. One of them could go after the world title type shit. Sheamus could go after the world title. Bronson Reed could go after the Intercontinental Championship. Theory and Shinsuke Nakamura could go for the tag titles. I don't know. My point that I'm making is sometimes that kind of randomness, and these are just random examples, but sometimes those random groups can end up working because it gets everybody on TV feeling important. Like a faction is like a cheat code to getting people on TV for one, and then a faction is also the cheat code for, hey, we don't know what to do with these guys. Let's throw a whole bunch of random guys together, and they're just all aligned with each other. They all have the same vision of growing their own personal ranks within WWE, and then they align with each other, help each other out, and they all kind of gain success from it. That's the way I look at it. That's my point. And then just throwing random names, you throw Apollo Crews in there, whatever. Like Apollo Crews in theory could be a makeshift tag team, but they're both really good wrestlers. They go out there and they win. And it's like, hey, why did we align with each other? Because we saw we weren't being utilized. We saw that we weren't being utilized, or we weren't getting the things that we really desire in this world. And we met other people with the same vision.
You can have NXT alumni come together, be a part of a faction.
Yeah.
And just say, hey, look, at the end of the day,
top 3
we're just done being underutilized here.
Yeah.
And we're just here to take over. Just like we did back in the days of NXT.
Yeah.
So take it or leave it.
Exactly. Like I said, they don't even have to dress the same. They don't got to do any of that bullshit. Like, alliances are cool, bro. That's it. It's just alliances. Yeah. Like, you want to imagine wrestling in an open world setting where everything backstage connects with people. You should be seeing random conversations between Theory and someone else and being like, hey man, like I scratch your back, you scratch mine, we help each other out. This is an alliance. And I just throw random names because it's just the point of showing you how you can make something work. And I would recommend, obviously we threw in guys that have been utilized, Sheamus or, right. Obviously Bronson Reed, Sheamus when they're cleared, like they're on TV. Same thing with Apollo Crews. But if you throw random people that aren't being used, you can make it work, bro. And then what's really cool is the guys who are really, really good are going to break out. So yeah, sometimes it's just fun to have random segments. DeSmith ASAP says, like how Vince did with Bobby, Drew, and Strowman. I remember that.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's those randomness, like obviously it didn't really go anywhere, but you could do those random teams where it's like, hey, it's kind of fun. And by the way,
like Wade Barrett, Rusev, Sheamus, who else?
Well, that wasn't really random.
The United Nation, I think.
Yeah, the United Nation.
Didn't that stem from like WWE 12 or WWE 13 or some shit?
I don't know. Oh no, but I
heard that narrative going around. Like the thing is, like we're all kind of basically talking about like this random kind of group of faction. How I brought up the NXT alumni type deal.
Yeah.
If you get, I hate to even bring this up because this is kind of just video gamey, but if you guys play 2K25 right now, that's exactly what happens in the My Rise.
I haven't played My Rise yet. I was planning on streaming it, so I haven't played it yet. Don't spoil it.
So I mean, sorry, I won't do anything more. But
yeah, thanks.
Yeah, it's
I was literally gonna stream My Rise today.
You play it.
Yeah, but there's a random faction.
You'll see what happens. Huh?
Is there a random faction?
I mean, you can call it that, but
or an alliance
you'll see what it is. I want to see what you think of it.
Got you. I mean, I just remember the reason why. Sorry, Phil.
It's very funny that we're talking about this and something like that relates.
Okay. The purpose of why I say randomness works sometimes is look at Braun Breaker and Baron Corbin.
That got over super quick.
It got over in NXT to the point where Baron Corbin wasn't doing anything on the main roster, and people were like, "Why did we break them up? Like that was such a fun thing. Like it worked, you know."
Yeah.
So sometimes this random stuff does work. Just click a random generator, throw a whole bunch of names in there, and be like, "All right, you guys are all going to be a group." And nobody's going to complain because you're going to get TV time. So. Shout out to Tolino Channel for the super chat. DJ dropping another $4.99. He says, I'd love to see Cross take over Wyatt 6 with Uncle Howdy, Strowman, and Rowan, and Aleister Black be a faction to go into a feud. Love you, DJ. Thank you for the super chat. I'm going to respectfully disagree. I like the way the Wyatt 6 currently is. I just want them on TV.
Yep.
I like Cross being a part of a faction. I think he's great with that, but I also like him being a singles guy too, if they were actually, allowing him to do that.
Yeah.
He's doing great.
But Wyatt 6... Yeah, but and Cross is fantastic. I love the guy. Yeah. But yeah, the Wyatt 6, I feel like they're just perfect the way they are. They just they really gotta get back on TV though, bro, because they should be.
It's so strange because even with Bo Dallas being injured, like you could have had Rowan and Gacy or Loomis and Gacy doing stuff in the tag team division.
Yeah,
I don't know. I felt like that was kind of weird, but I hope they don't give up on the Wyatt 6 because I love that group. I love it so much.
Me too.
And I get Uncle Howdy is like kind of like that ringleader and like the mastermind of everybody, but you can utilize everybody else elsewhere.
You can actually have them lose matches with Uncle Howdy being gone and turning that into a great story.
Right.
It's crazy.
Having him turn it around when he comes back.
There's always something for those guys and Nikki to do.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And they tease the stuff with Alexa Bliss, and then they kind of pulled away from that, so I'm curious about it. I don't like that. But there's a reason for why it's happening. We'll see what that reason is when it comes out, but I think it is because of the injury. But we'll get to that. Shout out to DJ for the super chat. A. Jackson dropping $1.99. He says, who's your top 3 breakout stars after Mania? Phil, I'll let you go first. Billy, you can go after, and then I'll respond.
It's very... Breakout star, you can kind of just, take that however you really want to, but I want Carmelo Hayes to break out and do something other than this whole Melo don't miss type deal. Yeah. I want Andrade to do something too, and I know those two were just paired up together in like the best of 7, but I really do feel like if you do something with that, it can work with him. And, somebody from Raw I would like to kind of see something to do with is, I want to see Austin Theory do something. I do. Because the thing is, when it comes down to just the tag team of Grayson and Austin, I liked it from the start at that point. But then they kind of shied away from like, oh yeah, Grayson... Austin's going to turn on Grayson. The whole thing kind of happened and never happened at the end of it all. And I'm like, what are we doing here? I see a lot of potential in Grayson Waller. I don't know if anybody else here does, but I see a lot of potential in Grayson. I know a ton of people on the other side see a lot of potential in Austin Theory. I see a lot of potential for both of those guys. As solo artists, the tag team, I thought something really could have been cool. But I want to see something happen for the both of them. And I feel like in this landscape of WWE, I don't know if they're ever going to be able to get that kind of shake to let them see what they can what they can truly be made out of. Because we all know how great they are, how young they are, how really they could be. But right now, I just don't. I don't know how it could ever be possible in a sense. But Andrade and Carmelo for sure.
Yeah,
in my sense.
Okay, Billy.
Aleister Black. Oh Lord, I just had it. Ludwig Kaiser, Braun Breaker. Thank you.
Love it. Ludwig Kaiser is on my list. He was actually the first person that came to my mind when I saw the super chat. So Ludwig Kaiser for sure breaks out. I'm also going to throw Ilya Dragunov in. He will be back around September, but I do think he will be a breakout star. And I am going to steal one from Phil. Carmelo Hayes, I think, will have a breakout after WrestleMania. And really quick, because there is, I think there was one more super chat that I had to get to. No, there wasn't. Okay. The reason why I just wanted to mention Carmelo Hayes and to kind of respond to you, Phil. Carmelo Hayes and Braun Breaker are the guys where they don't actually have to rush because they're so young. Right. They're up and comers. Like they're part of the next wave. As long as they're being utilized with or without titles, it doesn't matter. As long as they're being utilized, that's all I care about, really. And then I just want to make a really good point about Ludwig Kaiser. Me and Billy kind of did some fantasy booking the other day. And I think it was really funny because I said it. And then now that I think about it, I'm like, man, if you really want to have Gunther put over somebody to the next level, like, yeah, Jay winning at WrestleMania is huge. But if Ludwig Kaiser were to go to Gunther backstage and be like, you lost to Jey Uso, despicable, and just walks away. And he breaks away from Gunther. The minute that you put him in a singles feud with Gunther, dude, you have Ludwig go over, and now you have created like another singles guy who came from a group. So I just wanted to point that out there because there is something so special about this guy, and eventually you have to do the draft. You do the feud with him and Gunther. You have him beat Gunther, and to separate it, you don't have to revisit it. He gets drafted to SmackDown, and Gunther stays on Raw, or Gunther moves to SmackDown, Ludwig stays on Raw. So I just kind of wanted to point it out. Like that's a perfect opportunity to say, hey, he could steal the win, shock the world, right? Because then Gunther can underestimate him, being like, I created you, I made you this, I made you that, blah, blah, blah. Then Ludwig could win. Exactly. And then, by the way, you don't have to go back and have them keep feuding. You can now have Ludwig in the U.S. title picture or IC title picture, whatever you want.
Ludwig, he's absolutely incredible. And I think, at first, I'll say it. At first, when it came down to the split of Imperium with him and Giovanni, I was like, first of all, I just didn't like it for... just from the very beginning of it all. But then I was like, you know what? This is going to be a great opportunity for one or both. If WWE did want to get behind both, sadly, one didn't truly pan out in the way that many people probably hoped it probably would have. But when they did Ludwig and just gave him that ball to run with, he shined with it. And I mean, we see him now, he's absolutely killing it, and he's in that Intercontinental Championship title picture, and he could be there for years to come. So I love it.
I agree. Very very awesome super chat, Ajax, and I appreciate that, man. What a fantastic conversation today, fellas. A fantastic conversation. And I think that's the perfect way to end the show, honestly. So if you guys can do me the favor of just letting people know where they can find you and subscribe to you and do all that kind of stuff. Let people know what kind of content you make too. And then we'll end the show.
Phil, I'll let you take the grounds here.
All right, thank you. So yeah, I'm Phil. If you guys haven't known that already. At the end of the day, you know, I just love talking professional wrestling. I talk AEW, WWE, any type of, you know, kind of, you know, conversation you want to have. If you like seeing prediction videos, you like seeing, you know, pay-per-view reviews, I do those as well. I'm really just trying to get into the groove of everything here. I've been, you know, it's really like my first year of doing this, and doing stuff like this with Billy and Ango is an absolute blast, and I love getting to have these conversations because I learn each and every single time we do one of these. So boys, thank you very much for having me. But you know, it's just an amazing time to be a pro wrestling fan right now. I absolutely love this. Been, you know, a fan for years, and now I just had the opportunity and the courage, really, just to get on camera and speak about it. So if you guys want to see this ugly mug again, subscribe, and we're on the road to 500. So I appreciate everybody for allowing me to be here.
Cool. Make sure you guys follow and subscribe to Phil and Mr. Silly Billy, Mr. Condescending, his new favorite word. No, I'm kidding. Billy,
that's another nickname that he'll have now for this.
So, Billy TKO is where you guys can find me. I'm very opinionated. I offer my opinion, and I'm just hoping some of you enjoy my opinion. I do live watch-alongs as well, which I will be live tonight alongside my friend Phil here. We'll be doing a live watch-along to AEW Dynamite. If you guys would like to tune in, Billy TKO over on YouTube. Condescending Bill, Silly Billy, whatever you want to call me, it's Billy TKO on YouTube, pal. And go tell him.
Yeah, make sure you guys subscribe to Silly Billy. Thumbs up. No, seriously, in all seriousness, though, fun conversation. This was a great one. I appreciate you guys joining me and being part of the show. So I appreciate you guys being here, and I appreciate everybody watching and everybody who helped smash the Super Chat goal. Really just a fun stream. And by the way, one of the things that was so unique was we actually, you know, we typically do an hour, sometimes an hour 15 minutes, an hour 20 minutes, maybe an hour and a half. Today we went almost 2 hours long. But this was actually the best watch time for a live stream since February, when we began doing 12 p.m. live streams. So just a very, very awesome experience. That's how I knew the conversation was just so fun, because everybody's just kind of been sticking around and enjoying it. So shout out to the chat. Shout out to everybody who liked and subscribed and super chatted and all that good stuff. And we'll continue to keep pushing through, and we'll see you guys tomorrow. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for watching. Peace.